So Raheem Sterling looks set to move to Chelsea in a big move, one of the biggest moves I think of the summer for a player of his quality. He's had a great time at Man City, 7 successful seasons, 4 Premier League trophies, 5 League Cups, an FA Cup, and importantly, 2 Community Shields, 91 goals and 43 assists as well. He is a Premier League proven player who scored double figures in the last 4 seasons. So how would he set up in this Chelsea side and how would they change to accommodate? Now, obviously, a lot of us are incredibly familiar with Raheem Sterling, but let's just familiarise ourselves once again with his playing style, because I think it's good to jog the memory and it's good to kind of highlight just how good this guy is, really, and what he provides. And the thing that he provides the most is the fact that he is incredibly versatile and he can go both ways. Not in a, I mean, if he wants to, I mean, good luck to you. Enjoy yourself, feel you. And I think he's with, let's move on. He can play on both sides of the pitch. He can play on the left wing or the right wing and through the middle as well. Now that sort of number 9, false 9 role has kind of faded in terms of the amount of times he plays that now, and certainly in the last 18 months. But for a period of time, that was an option as well. And of course, could be an option if Thomas Tuchel wanted to utilise it. Here's his heat map. And what his heat map shows is that he can play on both sides and he can go both ways in terms of cutting inside, but also getting to the byline. What I would say is that when he plays on the left-hand side, because he is right-footed, he does like to square up the defender a lot more, willing to go down that left-hand side, as you can see from his heat map, but happy to come inside and then cut onto that right foot and bring other players into play, which I think is, a really impressive part of him, as is his physical stature in terms of someone who's, yes, small, but an incredible centre of gravity, great strength as well. On the right-hand side, he's a little bit more, I guess, one-dimensional, or he has a very more clear option in what he wants to do, which is get to the byline, beat his man, and get that cross in, generally low and hard across the 6-yard box. But this is a player who, at the top level, could play number 10, can play on the left, can play on the right, and can play through the middle. And he's someone who's been doing that to a world-class standard for around 7 seasons now. So how would Raheem Sterling slot in a Chelsea lineup? Now, this lineup that you can see in front of you now is very much hypothetical. I think Chelsea are going to be buying a lot of players, but what will surely happen is that there will be additions in the centre-back positions. I would imagine that's why we've got the new signing, new CB, there on the left-hand side. Of course, Rudiger has left. But I think what will remain, you would imagine, is 3-4-3 in some capacity. Chilwell and Reece James, them looking to utilise those 2 players as wing-backs more so than as full-backs on both sides. With Chilwell and Reece James so impressive, but now back from injury, what it will lead to, I would imagine, is Raheem Sterling playing almost as an inside forward. He'd play in a sort of the narrow half spaces, be it on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. If they do want to go to a back 4, that's where it might change that little bit, but we'll get into that. But it looks like, I would imagine, that he would play in a very narrow position in a front 3. Right, let's have a look at him in that inside forward position, being on the left and the right. And I think the first thing actually to say is the fact that Sterling and Mount can swap positions in game as well. Mount, the main thing that you talk about when you talk about him is that he is just so intelligent. And actually, with Sterling on the left-hand side, that's a place that he's thrived, and we'll talk about that in a second. But also, Mason Mount, recently, I quite like him in this sort of position here, where he can kind of get involved. And for a lot of the season, he did play on that right-hand side for Chelsea, so he'd be completely comfortable there, or you could swap them about if you wanted something that little bit different, which we'll dive into. With Sterling, firstly, you've got him deployed here as a left inside forward. And what I like about this setup is that the left side becomes super balanced with options. With Sterling's ability to sort of come inside, on the pitch whilst playing football. How do you get out of it? I just don't. Let's move on. With his ability to come inside or aggressively target the half space, it means that he's able to terrorise those gaps in between the centre-back and the full-back. That's what he's an absolute nightmare to defend. The beauty of it is he just causes the opposition defences so much problems. And what he might do by being that problem of going straight, going inside, is that he makes the opposition's defence play a lot more narrow. If you've got a wide player, let's just set it up quickly. And of course, a lot of teams will defend quite deep against these guys. You would, if you weren't having someone in that area, you just had 2 centre forwards, which I know doesn't happen too much. then you'd be able to kind of hold your position that little bit more. When Sterling plays there and you've got Havertz as well, it means that this fullback is concerned and so can play that little bit more narrow. And that's when Ben Chilwell comes in. I think this is a really exciting opportunity actually for England moving forward. If you want to play Raheem Sterling on the left-hand side and know that, you know, there are a lot of options there and you're trying to fit everyone in. But if you do make this back line a lot more narrow because they're looking to deal with all of these players, what then happens is it completely frees it up for Chilwell. Completely frees it up for Chilwell. Chilwell's able to get to the byline, get his crosses in, be attacking, and also in terms of that left side to the right hand side, it allows the likes of Reece James to get involved a little bit more. Maybe Mason Mount moves outside and makes those darting runs into the back post here. I'm not sure they can switch that about as well, and the same the other way around. So it does provide a really lovely balance by having Sterling on this left hand side. Secondly, those darting movements in and around the box, accompanied by Chilwell's width and willingness to get forward, will provide someone like Kovacic with a lot of progressive options. This is a player who can drive the ball himself, but I think what you'll see a lot more is his ability to showcase his vision. Or the other midfielders as well would have more options because you've got different angles with Sterling, you know, making those inside runs, making those outside runs, making those runs beyond as well. And it just gives Kovacic so many more options himself. And again, I think about poor old right back number one here is that Sterling is happy to drop in, pick up the ball and make runs there. He's happy to run in behind. He could run off his left-hand shoulder. He could run down this side as well. And even if he doesn't come into that space, if say he does, then you've got this underlapping run from Chilwell as well. It will be dizzying for fullbacks if Sterling makes the move to Chelsea. If you're to put him on the right-hand side, you get some really lovely positives, but there are a few maybe drawbacks as well. I guess it would come down to what Tuchel wants from his midfield, and in particular, I would say what he wants from Reece James, because if you play him on that right-hand side, what you can get from Raheem Sterling a bit more and he can do it on this left-hand side, but you would imagine he would look to leave it to Chilwell because he has that ability to go both ways. Sterling on the right-hand side, in terms of goals, I think there's something to be had there in terms of getting to that back post and being that poacher that he is, but I think he could do it on the left-hand side as well. But especially with the width of Chilwell on this left-hand side, I could imagine a lot of crosses being driven across that 6-yard line, Sterling at the back post doing what he does brilliantly, which is just sniffing out the goals. But on this right-hand side, what it could offer for someone like Reece James is his ability to do the opposite of Chilwell, to play into Sterling here and play 1-2, sure, and then utilise his crossing ability. Also, Reece James to just stay that little bit further back and wide and get those crosses in for the team as well. And obviously, Havertz is decent in the air, but now Lukaku's gone, that you lose that. But will there be reinforcements? Time will tell. And I guess the final thing is that it allows Raheem Sterling himself to get one-on-one out wide, which won't happen on that left-hand side, and just offer something different. And this is something that I think is, it's not as simple as like pick this side or pick that side. I think it depends on the opponents. It depends on how your team is getting on against the opponents during that game. And it might be one where, okay, 20 minutes in, Reece James would want to get on the ball to be able to put some crosses in because they're struggling with it. Or Sterling's not getting too much joy on that left-hand side because it's congested. Sterling being on that right-hand side might be able to get to the byline. If you're trying to play Timo Werner in as well, he's someone who will be looking to get those goals as a poacher himself as well. And also, I think the thing remains is that swap that around. Bring Mount in, bring Pulisic on that left-hand side. You've got a lot of runners in behind. And Mount as well could pick up on some of that and be a bit of a pivot here to allow Chilwell to get to the byline, get crosses in and get goals for Havertz and Raheem Sterling. And that's the thing to remember with Raheem Sterling, and that's what he brings when he comes, is that there's other players out there who, yep, they look to provide some quality, they're a threat, all that nonsense. This guy's about output. This guy scores goals, has done double digits for the last 4 seasons. So coming into a Chelsea side that will dominate most games that it plays, yes, you're bringing in a cracking winger, but you're bringing in someone who wants goals, demands goals for himself, and is confident in that pressure. That ability to be multi-dimensional and that low centre of gravity means that he probably is, despite when I watched with the eye test, I'm so excited by him on the right-hand side, he probably is a lot more influential on the left-hand side. And there's a stat here that I think highlights that in particular. The fact that he's kind of squished in between in those half spaces, in between the centre backs and the full backs, and then has that ability to not come short but also drive in behind, means that he wins a lot of penalties. Since the start of the 2016-17 season, Raheem Sterling has won the most penalties in the top 5 leagues, not just in the Premier League, the top 5 leagues. And that can't be underestimated as well. The ability to secure penalties, which essentially is securing goals for the team, it's as good as an assist for me. And someone like Jorginho taking those penalties, that will be a really useful element of what Raheem Sterling can bring that could be so important to Chelsea, both in the league, but in cup competitions as well. So what are the downsides of Raheem Sterling coming through the door? There's 2 for me. Tactically, there are none, if I'm honest. I think he's a really good fit for what Chelsea has already. I think he's an upgrade in terms of the output that he provides. And, this isn't a child. This is a guy who's going to come in and hit the ground running, who's Premier League proven. So from that point of view, I see no problems whatsoever. The 2 problems I see are the fact that this will lead to changes in the forward line. There's a lot of players in the side already in those forward positions who consider themselves superstars, likes of Ziyech, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi. And Raheem Sterling coming into this side means that Raheem Sterling will play. He will start. That will mean that there will be a changing of the guard. Is that a problem? Maybe not. Maybe that's what Tuchel wants. Now he's really got his feet under the door after a season and a half at the club. The second thing is about Raheem Sterling and what he's gone through, really, in his career. This is a player who was racially abused by a Chelsea fan at a Chelsea game. And that's something that actually, when I look at it, it could be a strength or a weakness. And I think it's depending on your opinion. I wonder what that will do in terms of the pressure that's put on Raheem Sterling. Look, if he's scoring goals and things are going well, then fine. And I think generally his ability to deal with pressure is pretty strong, especially after all the bumps and bruises that he's had to go through, both through the media perception of him and the fans' perception of him a lot of the time. A lot of fans have not been huge fans of Raheem Sterling, particularly with England. So going to Chelsea and going to a club where you've had this kind of drama, yes, it was the starting point where people started to really see who Raheem Sterling was, who he is a leader by example. And I think if you ask those younger players in that England squad, they would think about Raheem Sterling as that kind of, not father figure, but a bigger brother, because he's led the way in a lot of ways. So the question then becomes, what is it about for Raheem Sterling? Can he get past that, emotionally? Is it, obviously this is one stupid fan. This isn't all Chelsea fans. Now, I know there are people will get in the comments and they will talk about the different examples of it, but you've got to say that when it comes to a group of football fans, any football club, there are bad ones and good ones. But it did happen. And that must have obviously hurt Raheem Sterling. That's why he made the comments that he did after that happened. So him going into that kind of environment, and by that I mean the history that's been there and the way that he's dealt with it, if he is able to just happily brush that off, that for me is really impressive. That is a really kind of clinical, calm, unsensitive way of thinking about how you want to carry on with your career. And that's why he would be focusing on, is this a good footballing decision? And in terms of it being a footballing decision, it is. It really is for him. But that would be my only question. That's the downside of it, is for everyone involved, that will be the kind of, I guess, elephant in the room. That will be the big talking point if and when he signs, is that this has happened. And how do you move forward from it? And how do you have that connection with the fans? Now, does Raheem Sterling even care about that connection with the fans? I don't know. Maybe not. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing either. I just think it's an interesting element that is incredibly unique to this transfer. And I'd be intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. But do obviously think about what you're going to say before you say it. Don't just spurt out things that aren't helpful. So there you have it. All in all, a smart decision for Chelsea if they can get him. The money will be interesting, see what they want. Man City would probably want about 60 million. Chelsea will be lowballing and looking for 35, 40. But this is a sure thing, and you're taking a quality player from a title rival as well. So all in all, it feels like a very clever decision for Chelsea on the pitch. But how do you guys feel about it? Let me know if you think Raheem Sterling would go there and do the business, because Chelsea have had a lot of players that have come in and have been high profile and have haven't worked for Romelu Lukaku, of course, recently Timo Werner as well. So they need to try and get this right now. But is this the guy to do it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel and you've enjoyed this video, there's so much summer transfer window content to enjoy. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and I'll see you next time.